We've got James, pronouns he, him, calling in from Outstanding Kindness. Let's hope that's true. Who wants to talk about why faith is more robust in certain individuals compared to others. James is also a theist. We might get to talk about your faith as well, James. Hello, welcome to the line. How are you doing?
Hey, Forrest. I'm never had a
Oh,
bad day.
yeah, that's fantastic. I'm sad because we had one person who was asked about epigenetics and they dropped, and apparently they were being a little bit crazy with the call screen too. That's fine. I would rather talk to
Oh,
you
I love
anyway.
epigenetics.
Uh, it's freaking cool, right? So
Yeah.
tell me specifically what your question's all about. What are you asking for, and where's this going?
So I've been reading a book called How God Becomes Real, and part of the book
Okay.
is discussing uh, how certain people are like primed for like religious faiths. And then I remember listening to this show and seeing how many people, despite being given like overwhelming facts, myself included in that, uh, still like lean to faith no matter what. And I was wondering if there was like any biological factors or is it just a social thing that keeps people tied to it? I got my notepad.
I
I'm ready to go.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I don't know for sure if there's a biological side to this, but I can tell you there is a lot of data, a lot of psychological data to back this up. There is this one study. It's called Cool Dudes, and it's been a long time since I've looked into this. So check it out and in fact check to make sure this is the thing I'm talking about. But um, it was specifically studying like right wing conservative Republican guys talking about climate change. And they found that the more they actually taught these people about climate change, the more likely they were to lock down to their beliefs that climate change wasn't real. I'm going to go give this to my wife. Hold on just one second. Thank you,
Fascinating.
my love. You're my everything. Sorry? Yes, please. Thank you, darling. My sweet honey bear, everybody. So yeah, like when you see this as well, there was another study that was done on creationists, where they would take these people who had fundamentally untrue beliefs about evolution, um, and just they thought that evolution was all guesswork, was whatever the crap that other caller, I think Anthony or whatever, was saying earlier on. And they would put them into just an introductory evolutionary biology course, like an undergrad level. Let's actually talk about what evolution is. And they found that some of them certainly did change their minds, but a lot of people would then incorporate the things they learned in class about why evolution is real into their arguments about why they know that it isn't, or they would just ignore everything they learned in the class and just move on as if they had never taken the class. And so there's this barrier between like belief and like accepting new information. And that's why skepticism is so important. Um, so you talk about like how to get it through to people. This is why it's important to teach people how to think, not what to think, to encourage skepticism, to encourage skeptical analysis, and to be consistently asking people, how do you know what you know? Why do you believe what you believe? That's why we do shows like this. Because if I just got on here and said, here's all the reasons I'm an atheist, here's all the reason why evolution is real, here's all the reason why whatever, I would only be communicating effectively to people that already at least a little agreed with me or who were genuinely interested in my position. Meanwhile, everybody else would be left out in the cold. The much better way to move forward is to say, let's break down how I know this, why I think this, why other things don't stand up to reason, and show the reasoning process, because that's what a lot of people are missing out on. That may not be a very succinct answer to your question, but I think it covers all the bases.
Nah, you covered it really well. Uh, so I think he discusses something called the faith frame, which is why I kind of think it might be like socially tied. I'll have to put some more research into it, definitely. And that
For sure.
was a cool dude study, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was called, and I'm 99% sure that's the one that I'm thinking about. I think that's what I mean. It has been several years since I thought about that, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah. Uh, do you have any questions for me? So,
I mean, yeah,
because I
like
know
I
this.
would love to know on the back of this, you're calling in as a theist. What do you believe and
Yeah.
why, James?
Uh, that's really interesting because I'm a polytheist, specifically Hellenistic theist. So I know they're pretty rare on this, though.
Okay.
But
So what describe like so you believe in many gods
mhm.
and you have this one particular framework of that. Why do you believe these gods exist? What evidence do you have for them? What is the skeptical framework through which you are analyzing this claim and coming to the conclusion that it's reasonable?
So for me, I've been like researching ancient societies like Egyptian and Greek, and I'm still trying to approach it with skepticism, but I'm currently like the worst at gods of the gap, if you will.
Okay.
And I know it's illogical, but I can't. That's the reason for my question is I can't seem to like disrupt that.
So James,
So
let me ask you. I'm sorry I've like jump scared in. You haven't even heard my voice, and then I'm like, yeah, attack. What do you think? So I'm coming in on my ambush. I'm an ambush hunter. That's what I'm known for as the resident gibbon. What
Erika
when you say
hiding
that
in
you
the grass.
yeah,
mhm,
yeah, like
mhm.
a wild Pokemon, I jump out and attack you, and you better get your repels ready. When you say that you've got like
Yeah.
this God of the Gaps perspective, what gap is getting at you? Which gap is needling you?
So obviously, I'm an undergraduate. Not obviously, I'm an undergraduate student in Oklahoma, so I know there's a lot I don't know about how stuff works, and uh, this is really hard to try and to put into words. I'm incredibly sorry if I'm wasting your guys' time with this.
No, you're not
You
wasting our time.
you
Don't apologize.
you were on hold for almost 2 hours. Take you just tell us what you're thinking, man. Take your time. Don't take your time
Uh,
too much, but take your time.
so I'm basically it's the same as most other Christian gods, but I believe in like polytheists though. That
So is it origin of life? Is it like complexity? Is it consciousness? Is it
it's
culture? Is it you just kind of feel like there's something more and for whatever reason the Hellenistic perspective like clicks with you? Am I hitting any nails here?
yeah, that last one was really what did it.
Okay. Why Hellenistic perspective? What about the Hellenistic perspective scratches the itch?
Uh, I think mostly it's just the humanistic, how human the gods are for me. How they feel a bit more like tangible living creatures rather than this just all force that's there.
Are you do the Norse gods not have the same human appetites?
Uh, it's exactly that. I kind of have a weird belief that all the gods are real until I've been proving specifically otherwise. So like why I specifically do Hellenistic deist worship. I also believe that Norse and Yahweh, Christian God, and Egyptians may also be kind of hiding in the woodwork.
If if
So
I
these are
may,
all
when you
minor
say
deities with regional power, and they're acting over different people. And you particularly are choosing the ones that were powerful in ancient Greece to represent your interests here in Oklahoma. Why wouldn't you choose the Native American gods? There's plenty of them that are really cool. That you certainly have never been proved don't exist.
can I piggyback and ask a question? Because I just want some
Yeah.
clarification. When you say that
Yeah.
they're also real. Like from the Hellenistic perspective, you've got the Greek pantheon and then you've got the Norse pantheon. Are we talking about like a both exist and are discrete, or is the Norse pantheon just their understanding of the same gods in Greece? Like is it the same? Is like a Zeus Thor kind of thing, like same guy, or are they different individual? Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Both
Okay.
to me are like separate individuals. And to answer Forrest's question, it's because I am unfamiliar with a lot of the Native American gods. So
But
again,
they
kind of
exist,
adding to
right?
that kind of framework.
But they exist, right? Because you haven't been proven otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah. So here's the thing, man. And like I want to be very clear. I am not calling you anything. All right. I am not insulting you here. I am not implying that you are like some racist asshole or anything like that. I want to be very clear that is not my intention. However, you did grow up in Oklahoma. I'm going to go ahead and just ask you: Are you a white dude?
Uh, ding, ding, ding. You guessed right.
Yeah. And so you grew up in Oklahoma and you picked a pantheon that has nothing to do with you and is on the other side of the world from you. And even though you
I.
are saying that you agree with all pantheon, all these gods exist unless proven otherwise, you're not picking the ones that are actually all around you all the time. And you're in Oklahoma. You and I are surrounded by indigenous cultures. We are surrounded by Native American culture. I live in Tulsa. I am on Muskogee land at this moment. And you're not picking any of those gods. You're picking the ones that are idealized in Western white culture as this like personification of philosophy and free thought. You're buying into white supremacist ideology and letting that run away with your lack of skepticism.
Uh, to kind of touch on it, I do have Italian ancestry. I'm incredibly sorry. Just
No,
figured
that's
I'd
fine. That's
throw.
fine. That doesn't
I,
change much of what I just said. It's
yeah, it doesn't
especially
really
living in
change much.
Oklahoma. Especially living in Oklahoma, you know what kind of shit we are exposed to here and what we are taught in
Hmm.
public school. You know how
Yeah,
insidious it is. And
yeah.
so like I said, I want to be very clear. I am not calling you anything. I'm really not. I don't think you're a bad guy. But I think that you have bought into the shit that has been peddled to you living in this state, living in this country, but especially living in this state. And because of that,
Hmm.
you have decided that this particular pantheon is up on this hill, Mount Olympus, if you will, that all the other possible pantheons aren't on for the exact same reason that they could be. And I think that's something that you need to think about a little bit.
I mean, I'll ask a different question just because like my brain's kind of operating. I'm not in Oklahoma, so it's maybe not checking the same boxes for me that it is for you, Forrest. So like I'll come at this from
Brag
a
more
different
about
angle.
not being in Oklahoma.
Oh, you know where I live. It's not much better. It's not public information, but you know where I live. I let's just say I would be throwing a very big stone in a very glass house. So But what I was going to ask you, James, is that what is it that you do find compelling? Because like I found it really interesting how you framed it. It's like, well, it's kind of like these deities. Maybe they're real until proven otherwise. Like they're legit until you find out that they aren't. So I guess my question is
Hmm.
like, what about the Hellenistic pantheon why do you feel like there's support for their existence? Like do you feel like these individual gods are like moving in your life? Do you feel like there's like I'm like I've got empiricism brain rot. Like for me when I hear something I'm like, "Ho ho, how could we test this in a, I'm like the atheist be like you should be saying scientific method bless you. That's my mindset here. So my question I
Yeah.
guess is like what support are you finding for the Hellenistic pantheon. Not you just don't find it convincing that you just haven't seen them robustly disproven. What do you find in their favor?
Uh, Unfortunately, Forrest is correct that it is just a familiarity because I grew up reading like the Odyssey, the what was the other work? I'll remember it. It will come
Iliad?
back to me. It always does.
The Iliad.
Yeah, the Iliad. Thank you. It was just familiarity with them because they're such a prevalent part of our culture. For I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question at all, am I?
No,
Uh,
no,
Don't
you
worry.
hit the nail.
You're
You're right because they're a prominent part of our culture because our culture is based on white supremacy, and we prop those things up as more important than anybody else.
yeah.
my
Uh,
my thing, I guess, is that it's just like I don't think, like, I find it I have a hard time as an individual finding something compelling enough to say that, like, I believe in this thing, unless there's like a robust body of evidence that supports the idea to the exclusion of other ideas, and that nobody has like curb stomped this idea in so far, like in its empiricism, right? So like when I hear that somebody's like, oh, they are pantheistic, and this is like a crude analogy here, but like people who say that they've got, like, they believe in like UFOs or something like that. Usually the people who I've talked to who believe in UFOs, they don't do so because they're like a tinfoil hat guy, who's worried that there's fluoride in the water. Usually it's because they saw something weird in the sky and they couldn't explain
Mhm.
it, and so they found it compelling. And like I can't fault somebody for that. I can say to them, okay, to me, I don't find that compelling because there's nothing empirical about that. You had an anecdotal experience and that works for you. That's great, but like that's not proof that there's UFOs. That's proof you saw a weird thing. So
yeah.
from when I hear you say that you've got like this sort of allegiance to the Greek pantheon, I guess
Uh,
I'm still kind of at a loss as to like why. Like it feels very, and I mean this sort of in like this is how I'm interpreting it presently. So what you say will probably change my mind, but it's like it feels very vibes based. Like it feels very
Mhm.
much like you're like, these guys are cool. I like the idea. Maybe you have a deistic perspective prior, so you're like, well, I might as well pick the pantheon that's like the coolest and stick them in there. And then maybe that the Greek pantheon is the coolest to you, so you stick them in there. Like
yeah.
why them? What empirically makes you think that, like, Zeus and Hera and Hephaestus and like all these guys are interacting in human lives, not just in the past but also in the present?
For me, it's mostly just this is gonna sound like this is the worst anecdotal evidence ever. It's basically just boils down to a bunch of coincidences happening. Um,
Would
But
they
like I
happen
don't
to
I'm
be the
sorry.
same coincidences that anybody from any other religion would point to?
Exactly, Forrest. You got it. Um,
Yeah.
like I said,
I
I'm
guess I just
so sorry I'm wasting your guys' time with this.
you're
I'm giving
not
you
No,
the
you're not
this is important.
yeah, you're really not wasting our time. Like, this is important stuff to dig in. And like the fact that you wanted to call in and like bring this up, I think is a really good sign because it means you're thinking about it and you were like, okay, I'm willing to put this pedal to the metal. I'm willing to put this to the test. But to me, it sounds like this is my, armchair thoughts here, but like I feel like you like the aesthetic. I feel like you like the aesthetic, and we're wonderful, complicated pattern syncing apes. I feel like you've seen some cool patterns in your life that really went your way, and you're like, those are epic, but they couldn't have just been coincidences. So maybe there's a higher power at play. And you've got the family background being Italian. You've got like the aesthetic that we're inundated with here in the West of like the Hellenistic period, and all of those things kind of come together to be like, all right, fuck it. I'm a
yeah,
pantheist specifically with the Greek pantheon. And I guess what I'll say to that is like I don't as an outsider find that compelling in the same way that I don't find somebody who has a UFO experience that they really, really do believe compelling. So I would urge you to like just be introspective about it, like you're being now, and think to yourself, like, okay, like, do I really buy this? Because like you don't have to give up the aesthetic. Like you can still think all of that is really cool and the stories are really interesting, and think about how those that belief system has shaped humanity because it has shaped a really big part of humanity, specifically in that region of the Mediterranean. So it's like you can still be into that and think it's
Mhm.
cool and whatever. You don't have to actually buy into it, or maybe you come out the other side and you're like, actually, I'm even more of a pantheist than I was previously, and then you can call back and tell me and Forrest why you're a pantheist, like for real this time. Then
Yeah,
yeah.
and I would
Um,
also say, I'm sorry, go ahead and respond to her, and then I have one more thing that I also want to throw out there.
no, you go ahead, Forrest.
Oh, I just wanted to address. You said you think you're wasting our time. I really don't think that you are because I think that if we really boil it down, I think a lot of people believe the same reason and the same way that you do. in whatever gods they believe in. I think the majority of the Christians that watch this show and the Muslims that watch this show and the Hindus that watch this show that are the people who are watching because they're interested and they're on the fence and they're trying to figure out, what's going on. I think they have the same belief system that you do. They can identify logical fallacies that they might be making. You've said several times, I know this is an awful reason to believe, but I know this is just crappy anecdotal evidence, but it's like you can point out what's going on, and yet you're sticking in the belief because I think just like a lot of people, and I mean a ton, I think that when you start to think about it, if people start to think about why they believe, they very quickly find a reason to stop because it's discomfortable. It's uncomfortable. They hit this wall of discomfort, this cognitive dissonance where I know this doesn't make any sense, but that makes me feel gross and weird and confused and scared and uncertain and whatever else. And it's just too big of a task to sit here and try to dig through this. And I don't have the mental or emotional capacity for it. I've got bigger shit to worry about. I'm just not ready for that right now. This belief makes me feel special. This belief makes me feel safe. This belief makes me feel loved and heard. This belief means XYZ thing to me. And sunk cost fallacy says that I've already put this much into it, therefore I'm going to do it. And I know what the sunk cost fallacy is, but fuck it. And you get to this point where you just decide that it's okay to not be skeptical anymore. And if it isn't okay, it's all right because you're not thinking about it anyway. And I think a ton of people believe that way. And I think you do too. And I think that if you really care about whether or not the things you believe are true, that will not be satisfactory for you. And the first 5 minutes of being serious about it are going to be very scary and very weird. And the next rest of your life after that will be incredibly freeing and incredibly rewarding.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Forrest. Also, to answer your question, I have started to learn, beginning a little bit of, native folklore, and I absolutely love it.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I love the Potawatomi creation story. It's probably one of my favorite creation stories out there. I think it's great. It's not true, but it's fucking awesome. I love the Lakota creation story. The Lakota creation story, more than the Christian creation story, is one that you can squint at and say, that sounds an awful lot like what actually happened. I love it.
Yeah.
But it's not fucking true. And so, engrossing yourself in the cultures that are around you and I right now would be immensely rewarding. If nothing else, to give you a really cool cultural anthropology lesson, but more importantly, to help you to realize that, you don't have any more reason to believe this than anybody else has reason to believe anything else about supernatural stuff, and you know that. And so, I think you're worth the time to sit here and dig that out and try to heal your brain a little bit.
Dude, Egypt masturbation egg is goated, and we all know it. It's not a contest. Best creation story is the Egyptian masturbation egg story. It's just...
it's up there.
I don't know what to tell you guys. Up there?
I'm looking that one up.
There? That dream on, dude.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
I was just going to say thanks for calling.
Again when like you guys said, I'll call in when I have either I come back an atheist or I'll come back with some better evidence. Thank you guys.
I would take either one of those calls.
For sure. That's all we ask.
Have an awesome rest of your day, James. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching that clip. Hey, we're trying to do some data research about whether or not our callers successfully proved that God existed. If they didn't, don't forget to like and subscribe. That's how we know they failed. But if you don't like and subscribe, you're saying that they succeeded. So you're saying that by liking and subscribing, you will be affirming that you are an atheist. Hey, what else should they do?
I don't know. Maybe go to patreon.com/calltheline and donate some of their hard-earned money.
Like and subscribe.